Good evening and welcome to Thinking Re-envisioned. You're just seconds away from the unmatchable Henry G. Noel. Believe me, this is the tune-up your cognition has been waiting on. Here's Henry.
Welcome, everyone, to the Catch This One, the fourth episode of Thinking Re-envisioned, a show designed around you, the world, and the way we live and perceive our lives. Heady, yeah, at times it will be, but I think in a good way. Now, what I'm looking to do is to stimulate and invigorate and rouse you to rethink how you live your lives. My name is Henry Noel, and my aim is to stimulate you to look at your lives and the world, well, just a little differently. I want to invigorate your appetite to unlearn all the stuff that you've learned and, well, understand the effect that this learning has really had on creating the lives that you live. And I also want to rouse your curiosity so you can take control of your life, eliminate the negative effects this world has had on you, and get you to, well, begin questioning. The goal is to question everything. So Thinking Re-envisioned is your access code to the, well, unknown, where reality disappears into the mist of the illusion. And the illusion, well, that becomes the reality. It's your erector set to build a future to build the future of your dreams and the way you want to build it. You know, we're broadcasting live this evening from our international uplink studio in Cuenca, Ecuador. And I want to thank our good friends at Wirecast for making it possible for us to be broadcasting live and globally. Now, we're live this evening on IPMNation.com, and we're Thinking Re-envisioned's Facebook and YouTube pages. And I wanted to let you all know, too, that we have our live video is going over YouTube and also with Facebook. So I wish to thank our listeners who are tuning in on radio live, those listening to our rebroadcasts, and our fly on the wall video listeners. If it weren't for all of you, well, there wouldn't be any reason for me to be here. So again, I wish to thank and extend a heartfelt thank you to all of our listeners from the United States, from Ecuador, Ireland, the United Kingdom, Colombia, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Philippines, Belgium, Bulgaria, Germany, Uganda, Albania, Mexico, and tonight we are thrilled to be adding India, Kenya, and the Netherlands. So thank you all for tuning in this evening. We are aware that your time is extremely valuable, and we thank you for trusting in us and investing your valuable time. It is great to have you here. Now, it is our intention to provide explanations to the answers that you've been asking. You know, how did we get to this point in our existence? Why is the world so messed up? Why are we so angry? What causes us to be so critical of others? And who continues to contribute to the fracture and separation of us, the human race? And what can we do to change it? Those are powerful questions, and those deserve powerful answers and a different way of thinking to answer them. Thinking Re-envisioned. That's what we're about. Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher, said, "To attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day." You see, fear prevents us from letting go of who we are because, well, we may find our worst enemy within ourselves. But letting go, we actually find our best friend is within ourselves. It's your choice. So why not take the risk? We already know what we have, so why not find out what is waiting for us out there if we want to take the risk? Why continue surrounding ourselves with a labyrinth that has no way out? Why succumb to authorities whose only motivation is to hold you back, push you down, lie to you, and provide nothing for you? So enjoy your free audio acupuncture treatment to help your chronic philosophical pain. your auricular therapy session to reduce your anxiety, your medical Qigong invitation to change your mind, body, and spirit, and your Reiki consult to restore your rationality. We do all this to provide a natural healing approach to the medical mayhem we call life. Welcome to Healing in the Nth Degree. Now, for all our radio listeners who feel like participating in this show, email your questions to me at henry@henrygnoel.com. You don't have to stand on the sidelines and simply listen to what I say. Be participative. If you're listening to our rebroadcasts and want to voice your opinions, email me and we'll work out the answers you have been just looking for. Now, I am trying to create an avenue for, well, everyone to be active and involved in this show, because I really think that is the direction that I like. I love the two-way conversations. I love replying to answers, so questions. So Thinking Re-envisioned is simply the way we want to do things. We're here simply to make you think. We're here to make you question. Question everything. So if you're ready, let's get into tonight's show. Now, we trust everyone has had a good day up to now, and I want to thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday evening. Again, I understand there's lots of things you could be doing. So let's get into the thread. Let's say hi to our Fly on the Wall video listeners and see who happens to be joining us this evening. So tonight, wow, it's actually worked this time. I love it. So Alice, again, thank you so much for joining us. Marie, I appreciate you being here. Joseph, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Rita, I appreciate you joining in. And Wayne, of course, my brother wouldn't be here without him, that's for sure. John, great to see your icon. It's good to see you. Alice, thank you very much for being there. Let's see. Candace, hello there. I was counting on you being here. Great to have you. Thank you. Lee, thank you for joining. Marcia, always great to see your icon pop up too. I'm hoping you're having a great evening. Now, as I had mentioned to Brian in his little get together there, I am dedicating actually this show to you, Joseph, and to Mary for sending me the question that you did last night. You know, when I received the question, I was going to send a quick reply, but realized the importance of the question. So this morning I started writing and I realized the complexity of this issue and decided to dedicate this show to your question. So thank you, Joseph and Mary, for your provocative question, actually. And I'm going to read you what the question was. He said, so if I'm raised as a street thief and that's all I know, and it's all I've been taught from my parents, etc., what's the trigger to change? Who tells me it's right or wrong? How does the headhunter know? And I know that's a reference to my analogy of the headhunters, taking heads as simply the way that they did business. And I find that this is an exceptionally great question, and it really deals with getting down to what our perceptions of what right and wrong are really all about. And because it is such a complicated question, I didn't want to mess around with it. So again, I want to thank you, Joseph, for the question, and Mary, for the questions that you've been adding to it. I really appreciate it. Candace, you've been spot on with a lot of the questions, so thank you very much for that too. And we'll see how many questions we get from this one. So here's what happens. Oh, and by the way, not to scare you guys, but this is what happens. If you send me a question and it's not one of those that I'm going to answer really quickly, I'll make a show out of it if I have to. So this will be great. So let's get started with this and see how we can do. Because I wanted to start off with a disclaimer. And actually, this is for my brothers. He was pushing me about this, but I'm going to start off with a disclaimer of sorts anyway. So I want everybody to understand that when you ask me a question, my answers are my opinions. Now, granted, my opinions have been developed by and my conclusions formed from decades of questioning, of investigating, tearing down and rebuilding, and continually working to understand how the belief systems we worship affect us and society. My findings are just that. They're my findings. And in keeping with the topic of this evening, that of being right or wrong, my findings are neither right nor wrong. They just simply are. Okay? So to begin investigating right and wrong, we must establish which of the many criteria we're going to use to explain what right and wrong actually is. So we must determine from what position we are going to define right and wrong, through what set of belief systems we're going to use to define right and wrong, who sets the standards we're going to use, and from what viewpoint we're going to take to define right from wrong. So why don't we begin with identifying what right and wrong are, okay? It is my opinion, in order to understand the construct of right and wrong, we must do several things, requiring us to sort of step way outside of our comfort zone and possibly acknowledge right and wrong from a perspective which goes, well, against our own belief systems. So we must really eliminate, I guess, all of the external beliefs, the opinions, the definitions about right and wrong. Now, for me, right and wrong are, at their root, dualistic constructs, kind of like black and white, or left and right, or up and down. Now, let me explain what this means. On this planet, we understand the constructs from the position we hold on this planet. So, for example, if you point up from the North Pole, you are pointing to the northern sky. If you point up from the South Pole, you are pointing to the southern sky, in the exact opposite direction from the North Pole. Yet both are believed to be up. Both are right, in one sense. It's perspective. Face your partner and point to the left, and you are both pointing in different directions. Again, both are right. Well, in this matter, left, actually, but differing only in perspective. Now, remove yourself from this planet and this planet's references. For example, place yourself in space, and up and down and left and right don't even exist. There are no reference points to associate these constructs. They pertain only to reference points on this or any other celestial body. Within the vastness of the universe, they don't exist. So does this mean then duality only exists from hard and fixed reference points from a positional standpoint? Or does this mean that outside of these reference points, right and wrong doesn't exist? It's something to ponder. In the case of right and wrong, though, right and wrong have additional elements added to its being a dualistic construct. These are tied to morals, ethics, social and religious dogma. But these added elements are in themselves perceptions based on belief systems and biased based on their criteria and how they are interpreted. At its core, right and wrong simply do not exist. There are perceptions and belief systems created by all the external influences we have been subject to throughout our lives. So let's look at some of the other external influences affecting our perceptions of right and wrong. Where we grew up, in urban or rural areas, in the United Kingdom, in the US, Bangladesh, Tehran maybe, or Ethiopia, or on the moon for that matter. How you grew up within a single or double parent household, with or without siblings and or family members, with a silver spoon in your mouth or poor as a church mouse, on the streets fighting for your life and begging for an existence, or in a castle being waited on. Influences of parents and family members. Were they drug dealers, gangsters, scholars, ministers, political leaders, or royalty? Whether religion was part of your learnings or not, and which of the 4,200 religions in the world do you practice? Whether you are spiritual or religious, because there is a huge difference between each. The morals you were taught, which were based on what? Written texts of religions or the unwritten texts of street life? And the schools you attended, were they conservative? Were they liberal? What was the method and the process with which you were being taught? And these are but a handful of the elements influencing our perceptions of right and wrong. So your view of right and wrong are based on being raised with any combination of these elements and will change based on your movement from one of these elements to another. As a child, we're exposed to the learnings outside of ourselves, and we incorporate these learnings to create the very fabric we use to identify ourselves and live our lives. So for argument's sake, let's say we are Christians, and our blueprint is, you guessed it, the Holy Bible. And now you get to experience how I have questioned everything in my life and have developed my own conclusions and my own blueprints, or my own templates, if you wish. Okay, so my first question is, what denomination of Christian are we? According to the Center for the Study of Global Christianity at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, there are over 43,000 different denominations within Christianity alone. Add to this construct 59 versions of the Holy Bible just in English. And in total, over 1,770 versions of the Holy Bible in over 1,240 languages. So which one is right? And which ones are wrong? Pick one. As you can see, defining right and wrong just within the Christian construct is a monumental task. Now add to Christianity 4,200 different religions, and all the different denominations within these religions, plus all the scripture variations each religious sect follows. I am hoping that you can imagine the complexity in simply defining right and wrong. So, how do we proceed with right and wrong? If right and wrong are dualistic constructs, and our job is to define these constructs, it would be better to establish a baseline from which to build this construct. But to build this construct of right and wrong and establish a right and wrong baseline, we must deconstruct right and wrong as we understand it today from our own biases and our belief systems. So to establish a baseline, we must strip away all of the belief systems we use to define right and wrong. And you know my feelings about using the same word in the definition. That just is not my cup of tea. So we must step away from our upbringing and the external influences that we experienced that influenced our present belief of right and wrong. We must also eliminate everything that we believe right and wrong represents. Because if we're going to establish this baseline for right and wrong, we must eliminate even society's opinions as to what is right and wrong because society's opinions are simply what is acceptable behavior to society under certain circumstances, and this changes as tolerances change. What's right today might be deemed wrong tomorrow, and vice versa. So we all must agree that our behavior is predicted by or predicated by our beliefs about what we perceive to be true about the world. For example, if it is my belief I can only book a hotel room with a credit card, I will have my credit card in my pocket when I go book a room. If I believe a local shop will only take cash in small denominations, I will only present small change. If I believe joining the Lions Club will benefit my professional business, I'm not going to go join the Free and Accepted Masons. I'm going to go join the Lions Club. If I believe pedophilia is wrong, I will protest any peoples and organizations condoning it. So if my belief says killing is wrong, but I'm willing to kill someone who breaks into my home with what I interpret to be a threat and to do harm, where am I wrong? If my belief is such where killing is wrong, aren't I using a situational circumstance to justify violating my own belief system by killing someone who breaks into my home? If a sect of one religion believes all non-believers should be converted or killed, and my religion believes that that religion must be destroyed, who is right and who is wrong? The result is we are both killing. Remember, my belief system said killing is wrong. So perhaps right and wrong are nothing more than the justification used to manipulate a belief system in order to justify an action that violates that very belief system. You see, it's my contention that the question isn't about right or wrong. It is about the right and wrong of belief systems in general. How belief systems use right and wrong to justify their own agenda, and how we are so absorbed into all of this by being members of that belief system, and we accept the belief system and its inconsistencies. So right and wrong are predicated on how belief systems use right and wrong to justify the rightness or wrongness of the belief system, not the rightness or wrongness of the right or wrong. So, for example, pedophilia occurring within the Catholic Church is a very, very hot topic right now. Some clergy have gone on record as saying if pedophilia is happening within the church, it must be God's will. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. Well, my question is if pedophilia is happening within the church and pedophilia is considered wrong, why are people still attending the Catholic Church? How can one support a religious institution who condones and justifies pedophilia if pedophilia is considered wrong based on your belief system? You see, using a template such as religious doctrine to define right and wrong based on belief systems doesn't make it right or wrong. It simply justifies the doctrine of the belief system, making the belief system right or wrong, not right and wrong themselves. This is the reason that I say right and wrong really don't exist in the construct of reality. So let's get back into defining the baseline of right and wrong. If we place right and wrong on a non-moral scale, let's eliminate the moral scale at all and take it right out of religion's hand. So let's say the same scale is as happiness and misery. Now we have been representing happiness and right as well. We're going to represent right as happiness, and we're going to represent wrong as misery. Now, if the construct of happiness and misery that I have been presenting all this time is true, and then we are born happy and have grown to become miserable or unhappy, or we've covered up our happiness with all of our misery. So as I have been proclaiming, we were given happiness at our conception. This happiness still exists inside of us. And we have been busy, little beavers, covering up our happiness with shroud after shroud after shroud of unhappiness or misery. Is it safe to say right is our true self? And we have covered our true self with wrong after wrong after wrong from our upbringing, our belief systems, and our learnings? See, my conjecture is we only know right, and wrong has been taught to us. My question to you is, are right and wrong therefore separate entities and not a dualistic opposites? If right is our true self and wrong is taught to us from our belief systems, another question to you is, if we eliminated belief systems, would wrong cease to exist? My question to you. So, see what we have. So Joseph said nature's law is different from moral law. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it is governed. You can see by animals how they act. But we are not animals, and we have conscience. So there is a little bit of a difference there. Now, some people, Candace says, some people have no beliefs whatsoever, and and Candace, actually, that's a belief when you really get down to it. Marie says, if you don't believe in anything, that's a belief there. Thank you, Marie. You jumped ahead of me. I liked it. Candace says it's hard to grasp. I absolutely agree. John, yes, see. Allison says, so confusing. Yes, it is. It all is confusing. Marie says, but how do you test something against nothing? And I don't think it's the testing against nothing. Again, those are two perceptions, something and nothing. And so we have to really assess this and look at it on an individual basis and conforming to the time and the moment and the circumstance. Maria says there is a difference between murder and killing. There is technically, I would say, I think by justification. And I think that that's would be it. Murder doesn't seem to ever be justified, but killing seems to be justified. Again, I think that's a twist on belief systems and making right and wrong focused on the belief system and not in the actual act itself. Candace says, I live by God that inspired my soul and has always been there for me. My conscience of what I've done wrong and right. If you have no conscience, you are evil and no remorse. And I think a large part of that not having a conscience, again, Candace, is a perspective. I think people can see themselves as not having a conscience, or someone can see someone else as not having a conscience. But I really don't believe that that's the case. I think they do have a conscience. It's just that it's buried so deep at times. Hi, Mary. Welcome. Marcia. There is always a little inside voice that tells me if something is right or wrong. Hope I will not become deaf. There you go. that voice is in your head. You'll always hear it, and that's always there. So yes, we are. Oh, wow, that took it really quickly, didn't it? There, bro. Got about 2 minutes. So anyway, again, I wanted to thank Joseph and Mary for the question. I as I said, I am taking this whole thing about emailing me questions and things like that you want me to discuss in depth, or email me back and forth where we can communicate back and forth. If it's not something you want on the air, let me know in advance. But I take it serious, and whether you're listening on the radio or you're listening to rebroadcasts or you're right here live on the thread, I'm not joking. I am going to answer your questions, and I'm going to research it, and I'm going to do everything I can to delve into my old archives to really come up with the things that I believe are important in order to answer it. So I hope you take something away from this. Again, it was a day-long process to try to put this all together for you guys tonight. And again, it came from a simple question. So please, I really am serious in doing this. So again, I want to thank you. Let's see, Manson had no conscience. Most serial killers don't. Just my opinion, and I accept that opinion. As Candace, thank you. John says no one ever did anything thinking they were doing the wrong thing. And I think that that's true. Like my dad always used to tell me, you learn from doing things wrong. You never learn from doing them right. So you never start off trying to do them wrong. You'll end up doing that way. So I'm going to guesstimate on my time here. I believe I have about 30 seconds or so, maybe 20 seconds. And so I'm going to sit down and say goodbye. And thank you very much. I really appreciate this evening. I'm trying to get in the practice of shutting it down right at the 2 minutes till, just so that we can get the balance right on the time. So thank you very much, Marie, for the thanks. I greatly appreciate it. Hasta luego, everybody. Hasta mañana.